Hatred, never-ending hostility. Where did it all come from? Wrath, one of the 7 deadly sins of humanity, defined as an uncontrolled feeling of hatred, rage, and most of all a desire for revenge. One cannot think of a better way to describe the base-level, hostile nature of the Naytiba. The Naytiba's instinctual urge to kill humans is not something natural, but instead the outcome of what occurred in Altesse and Abyss Levoir, and no Naytiba better personifies this demon-like, ever-persistent rage against the Andro Eidos humanity that Eve represents, than the Naytiba she encounters at the base of the orbit elevator, and later within Spire 4 itself, than Belial. It can be argued that various Naytiba of the game represent other deadly sins. The sin of pride is perfectly encapsulated by Adam, for obvious reasons. Envy would be Raven for her clear disdain and jealousy of Eve being the one the Elder chose instead of her. Lust is represented by the Democrawler and Demogorgon. Of course not in a sexual way, but for the amalgamation of converted Naytiba within its enormous mass and their intense, excessive craving to crawl upward and reach out towards the colony, ever longing to infest the space station in order to persecute the god that prevented their entry into Elysium when the final war came to a close. While it is true that wrath can be seen in all Naytiba, as rage and hostility are present in all classes and species, it is the demon, Orca Aerospace's flagship combat droid, that is the perfect personification of an ever-persistent rage. But where does it come from? Why does it persist? How does it exemplify rage? And how does the angel that this demon pursued within the bowels of the surrounding infrastructure of the orbit elevator eventually overcome it? These questions and more will be answered through this explained. This is the demon Belial, the one who festered in rage. Lore and story. After Mothersphere's reclassification of mankind, one of the outcomes of the war before the final war saw the near genocide of organic human beings. The extremely low number of surviving humans were scattered to the winds. These humans were given little regard. They fled underground, ignored by Mothersphere, while she started her new human society. But Mothersphere did not anticipate the surviving humans' enduring instincts and ingenuity. Her father, Raphael Marx, and a small team of scientists were among the surviving humans. Upon regrouping, it was decided they would no longer turn to technology to achieve advancement, but instead the red blood and biology that made their species different from the ones who now lived in Mothersphere's new utopian society on the surface of Earth. How many years had the surviving humans, the once dominant species of Earth, both created and depended on advancements through the avenue of technology? Because their fate was dictated by something they had created through technology, the artificial superintelligence Mothersphere, the surviving humans could no longer rely on the creative path of technology. They needed to seek advancing their dire situation as their priority was to retake Earth. Their organic bodies were at an extreme disadvantage when compared to their android counterparts. And this is where their newfound research in their own biology started. Their organic makeup made them different from the androids above ground. They therefore studied their genome and found a way to advance it, to evolve their DNA, to push their weaker organic body forward so that they could contend with the android race that destroyed them during the prior war. This gave them focus. With a newly invigorated spirit, their leader tested out the evolutionary process on himself first. It was successful. He was evolved, capable of many fantastic things and even blessed with the power to create life. He was a new being and the first of a new species. He and the others decided on a name for themselves, this new species. They were the natives of Earth, the first dominant species of the blue planet. The once human beings therefore called themselves natives, and this later became referred to as Naytiba. At this point, prior to the outbreak in Abyss Levoir, the Naytiba were not the Naytiba we see during Stellar Blade's campaign. Mother Sphere stripped the title of humanity away from the surviving humans and had given it to the Andro Eidos that now lived on Earth's surface. These were the new humans of Earth. Without their title of humanity, the true organic humans that survived the genocidal war before therefore took on the title Naytiba. The evolutionary process of gene reamalgamation was only successful in Raphael Marx. So at this point, Naytiba referred to both the elder Naytiba, Raphael Marx, who had the ability to phase back and forth between the white shell and his more human-looking appearance, and the other remaining scientists, still unevolved individuals with a natural human appearance. In the Levoirs, the Naytiba scientists continued to try and replicate the success they had in Raphael Marx, and they did this through test subjects. One aspect involved in their testing was the inclusion of something they perceived would give them an edge in their eventual return to Earth's surface. The whole purpose of the Levoirs was to arrive at the ability to implement the same evolutionary outcome that happened in Raphael Marx's body across all of the surviving humans, to turn all Naytiba into something akin to what occurred within the Elder. If they could accomplish this, then they could take revenge against Mother Sphere and her androids. They could retake Earth. But their numbers were far fewer than the android population. And with Mother Sphere's control of the entire production complex of what was once Raphael Marx and her company, Eidos Industrial, she had begun producing countless more of her android race via mass production of android body frames to repopulate Earth after the destructive war. Therefore, this calculation, an unfavorable ratio of Naytiba to android human that put them at an extreme disadvantage numbers-wise, was taken into consideration. In addition to their disadvantage from a numbers standpoint, the team of scientists ran into another problem: natural hostility. Before getting to this next problem, though, I did want to clarify my thoughts on the idea of Naytiba hostility. The team of scientists' plan is never clearly laid out in any item descriptions of lore. It's therefore not clear if the plan of the Elder and Naytiba scientists was to try and evolve the rest of the scientists themselves, basically use the evolutionary process on themselves, like Raphael Marx did, to become the Elder, or if their plan was to always grow test subjects, essentially clones from growth pods using organic human DNA. I don't believe the Naytiba scientists had ever thought of testing the evolutionary process on their own bodies, but that could have been the plan. We simply don't know. It is my belief that the plan was to always produce or grow clone-like test subjects. This is why Eve tells Lily while in a test Levoir that what she sees looks like a production facility.
Yes, they might have done, Lily. After all, knowing your enemy is often the first step towards defeating them. But this place seems more like a manufacturing facility to me.
The group simply needed a first to test the process on, and because of a mix of Raphael's intelligence and his hubris, he most likely knew the process would work, so he therefore tested it on his own body. Again, the random outcome of the evolutionary process made the possibility of reproducing what occurred in his body in other test subjects impossible. After Raphael Marx was evolved, the team moved on to the grown test subjects, the clones produced from organic human DNA. Each test resulted in the subject being evolved, having some type of evolutionary leap forward, and now possessing an extreme offensive capability. But unlike the Elder, whatever agency, free will, or independent thought the test subject had was wiped away, and they were left with a base-level hostile instinct. They were hostile towards anything and everything. The test subjects simply acted like feral, hostile animals. The Elder and Naytiba scientists must have been frustrated and felt like all further testing was pointless, futile. They most likely wanted to produce something like an army, something they could command, give orders to, and control, so that they could take on the Andro 8's humans above ground on Earth. We don't know how long this continued on, but the team determined a new direction to go. What if this natural hostility, the instinctual urge to cause harm and kill that all test subjects had, could be harnessed or directed? The team found a way for the evolved test subjects to direct their hostility towards the androids, Mother Sphere's Andro 8, her new humans. We don't know how this actually occurred, but they did achieve this. Now all evolved test subjects had an instinctual urge to kill the new humans. They wanted the test subjects to have a never-ending, relentless push to kill the new humans. Therefore, this final component was agreed upon. A never-ending rage and hatred against humans was included in the evolutionary process. It is my belief that because the hostility the test subjects possessed could not be shed or turned off, the team intended to use the test subjects like an army. Once enough were produced, they would bring them above ground and release them on the Andro 8's humans. These evolved, grown test subjects would then wipe out the Andro 8's humans and then be contained afterwards by the Elder and Naytiba scientists. Something like real military forces of today. They are used in war, but then after, in peace times, they are contained, held within military bases, and not used unless another conflict arises. But because of Mother Sphere's attack on Abyss Levoir, we don't really know what their full plan was. The record logs between Raphael Marx and Rafi make it clear the Naytiba scientists were simply out of time. Mother Sphere had gained their coordinates. Her airborne squadron of androids honed in on Abyss Levoir, and she sought to end her father's experiments. With this attack, she would extinguish the final remnants of her father's species. The Naytiba scientists were left with little time to react. Through their experimentation, they knew of a few factors that helped their leader make a decision in response to Mother Sphere's attack. The test subjects showed the ability to multiply, to manifest in other material, both biological and non-biological. If the test subjects were released to respond to Mother Sphere's threat of attack, the test subjects could both fight back due to their now instinctual urge to kill Andro 8's humans, and multiply exponentially in number in a never-ending fashion, like a virus. They would be able to spread and continue to attack all of Mother Sphere's android race across Earth. Not to mention that because of the ability to manifest in non-biological matter as well, even Mother Sphere's androids, once attacked by and consumed, would then turn against other android humans. Raphael Marx calculated that the Andro 8's humanity would eventually be defeated. There was no denying the virus and contaminating-like effect of their test subjects. But this would come at a cost. The test subjects and everything they spread to would have a hostile, never-ending rage. Raphael Marx knew that by releasing the test subjects to fight against Mother Sphere's attacking airborne squadron, Earth would be consumed by an eternally hostile entity. In his need to control, and in a blind attempt to put an end to the problem he created, to fix what he had caused, and kill off Mother Sphere's new humans, he went ahead with this decision to release the test subjects. He ordered Rafi to release them, and a blind fury ensued. What we know as the Naytiba from the campaign of Stellar Blade was born. A wave of rage against humanity spread across Earth. Influences. Due to its name and its association as a fallen angel, or a demon, its Christian influence cannot be overlooked. It's clear that Kim Hyung Tae has pulled certain Christian iconography and naming conventions from the Bible to help convey his story, such as using the names Eve and Adam for his main characters, using the term Providence, represented in the airborne squadron's exoskeleton to show just how far the god of the Stellar Blade universe, Mother Sphere's reach, goes, and through the naming choices for several of the Naytiba. Demons or fallen angels from the Bible are present in the game: Abaddon, the Watchers, and Belial. Belial is a Hebraic term and is characterized to be someone of little value, being worthless and even wicked. Upon looking at its ecological information, it is revealed that Mother Sphere gave the combat robot the name Belial when it was produced by Orca Aerospace Company, revealing that these combat droids were called Belial-type robots before the Naytiba outbreak. These combat robots, like Orca Aerospace's other droids, the D-type Houndborgs, S-type sentryborgs, O-type droids and their variants, the H-type heavies, and the B-type battle droids were around before the Naytiba outbreak and resulting final war. They performed various roles within Mothersphere's new human society, such as providing security, maintaining safety, and giving combat assistance. It's curious, then, that Mothersphere and Orca Aerospace decided to name their flagship combat robot the Belial-type droid. While the name Belial is often associated with evil in general, making it possible that the naming convention of this superior combat robot was simply chosen by Mothersphere to intimidate those it was used against in her society, one cannot ignore what Belial is most associated with: worthlessness. Is this some sick ploy of Mothersphere used to name this combat droid? In her eyes, was it, and has it always been, considered a worthless entity, simply created to serve as the sword of humanity? Or is this incorrect? Should its view of being seen as worthless only be considered after Mothersphere's determination that her new human society would fall during the closure of the final war? At this time, when she calculated she would lose the final war, in her eyes many other things became worthless as well. The pods full of her humans she dropped in the colony extinction, the new humans that remained on Earth when those pods rained down, and all of humanity's infrastructure and weapons used in the final war, the Belial combat droids included. It would be fitting at this time for the combat robot to be given or assume the name Belial, for the state-of-the-art AI brain within it must have felt worthless by being left by the new humans and Mothersphere. The once superior flagship droid would have now had a feeling of being viewed as disposable and having no value. So the Christian context is obvious, but for me, it makes more sense this droid did not have the name Belial prior to the final war, but to have taken on the name at the war's end, after abandonment by Mothersphere. And then there is Belial's behavior, that points to another area of influence Kim Hyung Tae may have pulled from. Belial is the first Naytiba we encounter that seems to be unique for the way it acts. And the idea of a Naytiba having a behavior beyond simply their instinctual hostility is a new concept that Eve encounters. All Naytibas she has fought up until this point have been aggressive, yes, but they have simply been that, baseline aggression stemmed with hostility toward the angel. But this one is different. It is introduced through the lens of something horrific, something that stalks. Everyone is aware of the draws that Stellar Blade has from the Nier franchise. Yes, Kim Hyung Tae has been quoted many times saying that Nier Automata was a source of inspiration for him. And there are other inspirations clearly seen in the nanosuits. Kill Bill and Game of Death with the sporty yellow nanosuit, Tom Cruise and Val Kilmer's Top Gun with the Sky Ace, and the Terminator IP with the black and white Konoichi nanosuits reference to Cyberdyne systems. I would argue there is another inspiration made apparent by looking at the behavior of the demon Naytiba, Belial. Recently, there was a collaboration between one of Kim Hyung Tae and Shift Up's other games, Nikke, with the iconic horror franchise Resident Evil. What contributes to Resident Evil's iconic status are some of the characters seen in the Nikke crossover: Ada Wong, Jill Valentine, and Claire Redfield, all present. The event launched in September, but I know little about it. But this tells us Capcom's Resident Evil franchise has always been on Shift Up's radar. And with Belial's introduction, it appears Kim Hyung Tae has pulled from another one of Resident Evil's most notable features that has also contributed to its iconic status amongst video games: the stalker mechanic. The stalker mechanic is something implemented in a handful of video games where an enemy follows or stalks the protagonist. Most people would agree that this mechanic has been perfected by Capcom and is a staple of their Resident Evil games, most notably Mr. X in Resident Evil 2, Nemesis in RE3, and the simultaneously terrifying yet hilarious Jack Baker of Resident Evil 7.
Every day it's the same thing. I'm gonna squash you like a bug. Hope Marguerite didn't hear that. Are you having fun yet? Oh yeah, I'm gonna take you for a ride. You're part of the family now. Ain't getting away.
Although Belial does not follow Eve outside of the boss encounters in actual gameplay, its introduction through cutscenes at the beginning and end of the Hypertube sequence, as well as its follow-up encounter in the lobby of Raphael Spaceport, draws heavily from Resident Evil's aforementioned stalking enemies. Because we know Kim Hyung Tae pays homage to and pulls directly from sources of inspiration, Nier, Kill Bill, Top Gun, Terminator, and with the confirmation that Resident Evil is also an IP he adores, it's not a stretch to say that beyond the Nikkei crossover with Capcom's franchise, he has also pulled their stalking mechanic seen implemented in the introduction of Belial. As Eve walks towards the opening hypertube and the camera pulls focus to shift to the demonic Naytiba, our curiosity spikes due to seeing something completely new. Beyond the Resident Evil comparison, there is even a sense of Eve being considered by this Naytiba to be prey, and the onlooking Naytiba a hunter. It sits perched high above her, drawing comparisons to even another IP, Predator, made famous in 1987 with Arnold's iconic sci-fi action movie, and the present-day reboots we got with Hulu's Prey, and will be getting just next month with a new Predator Badlands. Eve turns, and before it can be spotted, it leaps away, attacking the angel. Moments later, upon finishing the endorphin-pulsing sequence of the hypertube, as Eve calls out to Lily, before our comrade can respond, she is pounced on by this new Naytiba.
That was close. Lily, you're behind me, right?
Can we please slow down? What is that? Watch out!
Our mind quickly puts two and two together, and Eve maneuvers herself within the hypertube and devastates the Naytiba. She thrusts it off her, resulting in something that could be lifted right out of a comic splash page. The Naytiba is thrust against the factory-like infrastructure of the mouth of the hypertube, and the battle ensues. Belial's first phase sees Eve sever its arm. Unlike all other Naytiba that have come before, where they would have continued onward with severed body parts with more animalistic and zombie-like instincts to continue on, this one lets out an audible burst and seems to scowl at Eve. It grabs its wound as if aware that the Andro 8's human it detests so much has just done it a grave misdeed, and jumps away, its rage boiling in its defeat at the hands of a human. The one with the red eye. When Eve comes inside Raphael's spaceport and picks up the deceased Legionnaire's memory sticks, there is one that tells of a description that matches the Naytiba just previously encountered, the one referred to as Belial. Legionnaire 798's advice confirms Eve's suspicion. It is different. This Naytiba's evolutionary pathway was influenced by more than just rage, through its festering feelings of being abandoned by the new humans that were evacuated up the orbit elevator during the closing moments of the final war. It has manifested an unrelenting push to seek vengeance on these humans. It leaps to strike at one of the humans, Eve, in an attempt to achieve retribution. Then the physical manifestation of the buildup of its time rotting as a Naytiba on Earth, tossed aside, assumed of, as its name implies, worthless, occurs. The evolutionary process this Naytiba possesses is regeneration. It summons a new arm, and we see its three attributes described by Legionnaire 978 play out in Eve's second encounter with this demon. Destructive. Fast. And 3 times regenerative.
Again! There's no end in sight!
And paired with the battle Eve has with the demon are the pumping sounds and lyrics of Muwen's heavy metal. Muwen's lyrics tell of the struggles it had after being abandoned on Earth. The lyrics tell of Belial apparently wrestling with being consumed by darkness, by the Naytiba contamination rolling over its body and giving into it. And Muwen's last stanza speaks of Belial's regenerative ability. But the lyrics then take a twist. Is there more to the combat droid that we haven't been aware of up until this point? Does Belial actually want to come back time and time again? Are its regenerative abilities actually a curse? Is the advanced AI brain of the combat droid still somehow present underneath the Naytiba contamination? Is the contamination like a blanket suffocating the once normal AI brain? Does it actually want to have peace, to finally be able to rest? Is the AI brain of the Belial combat droid sitting there, cognizant of being controlled and simply along for the ride as a now rage-filled Naytiba, unable to do anything but live out its new life forever as a monster? The lyrics continue. I think the answer to all the questions I previously just posed is yes. The last lyrics of Muwen seem to speak of Belial pleading with the contamination. It doesn't want to keep coming back, but it's a useless plea. The curse of the Naytiba eternally brings it back. It is forced to fight this human in front of it over and over again. But the angel and her comrade Lily have a plan to provide surcease to the demon. Lily unlocks the drone's overdrive feature, and upon Eve taking Belial's health bar out for a third time, the infected Naytiba lurches out at the angel. Eve summons the drone, and we witness. The Naytiba, who through its regenerative properties came back again and again, is finally defeated. The angel extinguishes the demon. Was the AI brain, enraptured by the Naytiba contamination, always aware of being turned into a demon, but simply unable to break free? Muwen's song presents a new dynamic that might be present in all Naytiba forms. Maybe the hostile nature of a Naytiba is what pushes them forward to try and kill all humans in their path, but their mind, AI or organic, still remains under the surface, at least partially still aware. This would be a truly horrifying new understanding of the Naytiba that perhaps can be explored in the future sequel. This explained video is all wrapped up, but I've got a quick message for you. I'm recommitting this channel to Stellar Blade. I spent some time playing and trying out some videos on other games, but I simply keep coming back to Stellar Blade because I have a huge love of this game. But more importantly, I have enjoyed connecting with you in the comments section. I truly love keeping up the discussion with you all there. So please consider subscribing, liking, and sharing this video with others, and I'll meet you down there in the comments section. See you on the next one, and may your memories live on forever.